All right, what's up, everybody? It's Lids, and we are back for some more Pyre Community Day RITE Night, Pyre Community RITE Night, which means, of course, some good old-fashioned multiplayer Pyre, featuring first and foremost none other than the members of the RITE Club Discord server, the place for all things multiplayer Pyre. If you're interested in getting more involved in multiplayer Pyre, then the best way to do so is by joining that Discord server, which you can do by clicking on that link right there. But those of you in chat, you are not off the hook, because you see the red circle with the white L below chat. You click on that, you'll find all the various requests you can make today of our players, including things ranging from selecting players' exiles, masteries, talismans, songs, arenas, even Titan stars are all fair game. So, without further ado, let's hop in here to versus mode, set our presets, and let me know, chat, if there's anyone who'd like to get us started today. And if you're asking yourself, hey Lids, you sound different this week. False. Black Bear. Correct answer is, I sounded different last week, because last week was not me. For the most part, it was Duff filling in. I think I saw Duff in chat, so thank you, Duff, for filling in when I had lost my voice and was very much unable to host the stream, or at least commentate over the stream, and so we had a backup commentator, and he did an admirable job, if I do say so myself. Couldn't have done it without you. Well, Artemis Val says, it is about time for some thrash packing. Fitting, that can be arranged. But is there anyone who would like to get us started today? Also, full disclosure, my voice is not 100% back yet, so probably going to look to keep this RITE Night a little bit on the shorter end. Obviously, feeling well enough to commentate. But I don't want to, push myself so hard that I lose my voice again, and then we're back at square one, because that is ultimately the way that I lost my voice, was by recording and streaming too much and losing my voice and trying to power through it, and it backfired. Okay, let's see. Let me hop into Discord while I'm at it, before I forget. Let's see. There we go. All right, I'm in Discord. Let me get Epstein friends up. I do not yet, but now I do. Okay. I'm ready to go whenever you guys are, chat. Who would like to get things started in this thrash pack of rites? I know we're all excited here, but don't all volunteer at once. What if? Now hear me out here. I know we're in an hour and a half or so. Okay. Okay, hear me out here. We were just talking about how last week we had Duff fill in to commentate. However, Duff notably did not participate directly in the rites himself. What's up, Core? How's it going? So what I'm hinting at here is what if, we were to get Duff involved in the other way, in this RITE Night, and commentating, been there, done that, but playing. All right, okay, no pressure, Duff, because it does seem as though now both Core and Yiggly have volunteered, so we do have the means, the peoples, to make this happen here. Let's see. Duff's off the hook for now, but just you wait. Just you wait and see. We'll come back around and get Duff in here at some point. There is no escape. No worries, Duff. No worries. Okay, well, let's see. Core invite sent to you. Let me get one out to Yiggly as well. I saw you a second ago. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? There we are. Okay. Hades reference indeed. All right, let's for triumvirates. 4, I assume you're looking at Pyre Hearts, but Yiggly, remind me which triumvirate you would like to represent today.
Pyre Hearts.
Pyre Hearts for core, okay. Does Bottled Void not work? Well, see, here's the thing. You may have someone playing against you who would be more than willing to demonstrate.
We talked about this. What did we talk about?
I will say no more. I will say no more. Let's see. Oh, also, Yiggly, remind me, are you controller or mouse keyboard? Or is this Glade? Oh, and okay, just barely beating Nord to the punch. Controller? Okay. No worries, let me just verify then, I assume. Oh, Yiggly, you haven't accepted my invite yet? How dare you? Also, wait, hold up. I remember previously, I originally spelled your name with 2 G's, and then I looked at your Discord or your Twitch name and saw it only had 1 G and corrected it. Maybe I wasn't going crazy because, excuse me, one of your names has 1 G, the other one has 2. What is the correct spelling? 2 G's is technically the correct one. Okay, gotcha. There's some serious mind games on that one. It's one thing to have significantly different names on different platforms, but to change just one letter is devious. Ah, no worries. All right, so Core said Pyre Hearts. Yiggly, which team did you want to be? Did you say? Not sure, you said. What's up, Freebalt? How are you? Accusers for you? Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Perfect. Okay, now let me verify. Oh, right. Yiggly, you still haven't accepted my invite. I will resend you an invite. I am moderately offended. There we go. Attempt number 2. Ah, I see. No worries. No comments. No comments. All right, so I assume we'll see Core as player 1, Yiggly player 2. Yep, okay. That was the assumption I was acting under. Looks like that will in fact be the case. Okay, so I think in that case we should be good to go here. Just to confirm, Core, is that you moving the controller around? The cursor around?
It was not.
Oh, hold on. If you do bumpers, which triumvirate sigil do you?
I'm player 2.
What? Remote play. Why do you lie to me like this?
It says I'm 2 on remote play.
It does? Okay. I swear it didn't a minute ago.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, of course, when you're the only person in here, you are by default player 1. Even then. Okay. Let's see. These guys. Oh, wait, what? That's the wrong sigil? Where'd that come from? Not the Beyonders. There we go. That's more like it. Okay. That's more like it. Alright, so it'll be Yiggly and Core here. We have Glade of Lou. We have Thrash Pack. I think that was it in terms of requests. So if you guys are ready, why don't we get it started? What's up, Cacao? How are you?
Nightmare's a bit of a strong
The time is
count.
nigh, exiles. You stand upon the glade of Liu. Here you shall be tested by your adversary. Know that the scribes themselves are watching. Accusers.
You switch to player 2? Let's see.
Pyre hearts stand prepared.
Well, we may be about to find out. Suppose there's an easy way to determine.
Who shall strive for freedom?
Is this Core or is this Yiggly moving around?
Yiggly.
Okay. Looks like we're good. Okay, so Haoob's Wing Tizo for Yiggly. That means infinite stamina. As for Core, that's an exploding Gilman. Yiggly goes Web Lanthorn on Pamitha, meaning that she will bring back allied exiles when she banishes someone. What do we have here? Oh my goodness, totally didn't see that one coming. Could it be? Might that perhaps? Dude, no way. Was that like a... What do they call it? Like a contained black hole? Like a canned singularity? Oh, Bottled Void! Bottled Void is the name of it, right. Alright, prayer beats Jody.
We should start calling it canned singularity. It's great.
That would be our code name, Core. For whenever you're concerned about me spilling the secret sauce. Well, there is the Stowaway, plunging for 20. Now, she had the Bottled Singularity, not Prayer Bead, so she's gone for this round. Not that it matters here, as Core follows up quickly with a 12 damage throw from his Worm. That means everyone back here, including the Stowaway. And there is the false step triggering, which means if she gets banished at the end of her jump, she will respawn from where she initiated that jump, and that's how she came back and followed up with a score. And it also is, of course, a way of guaranteeing that he can proc that Bottled Void, Canned Singularity. Oh, you hate to see it. The BM. A devious maneuver indeed. Exploding Gilman. Clearing out a little bit of room here for the Stowaway, who deliberately triggers that false step by jumping into Jody. Combine that with a Stunning Claim and made the Stowaway the only exile capable of moving for an uncontested 20 damage plunge. Once again means no Stowaway for this round, but here's a valiant return for Gilman, who has enough room for the finishing throw. GG. Dude, wait, what?
Thus end this night's proceedings.
GG.
Until the next round.
So, admittedly, initially, We were under the impression that Bottled Void was a complete joke of a talisman that was completely worthless. It had no practical use cases, and therefore should be completely disregarded. That is, until some people decided to experiment with it a little bit, and found some interesting ways to put it to use. Unconventional. Wouldn't have seen it coming, but it has become a bit of a staple.
So as I was saying, Bottled Void is really not that good of a talisman.
Right, here nowadays, Bottled Void is just completely disregarded, and instead, people have been all about this new canned singularity talisman.
Exactly.
Alright, well, let's reset to our defaults here. But let us know, chat, if there is anything else we'd like for the next one.
Well, we have Karen.
Oh, we do have a cairn. That's true. We do have a cairn. Lenore, I believe, had requested that. Yeah, okay. That's the one thing we have left over. Is there anything we want to combine with that? You know, Yiggly, you may have a point there. So yeah, Core, from now on, whenever it's a Cairn of Aub, and we suspect the potential Bottled Void play, I will from now on refer to that as Canned Singularity, so as to not reveal your secret.
Okay.
They'll never know what we're referring to. They'll have no idea. It's a foolproof plan. Grand Ceremony, okay. So we have a song. Packaged Convergence. That's a hot take right there. That one's, you know, it's definitely not as popular. But I can see where you're coming from. I can still see where you're coming from. Nah, we already have referred to it as a vacuum cleaner. I personally have referred to it as a vacuum cleaner far too many times for that to fly under the radar. Alright, let's get this one started though. Looks like this will be all. So often I refer to the mechanics of that talisman as sucking in neighboring exiles like a vacuum cleaner. But I don't think that will fool anyone.
Welcome. Who shall conduct the rites?
Alright, so Yiggly goes infinite stamina on Tiso once again here. Now this usually is the preferred location for none other than the Can Singularity. There are a few ways to pull it off. We of course saw last time Core opted to use the false step stowaway, which is generally his preferred method. Again, jumping directly into opposing auras and therefore respawning the stowaway where she initiated the jump, and in doing so, automatically triggering that Bottled Void. But this time round with an imp, well, we'll see. We'll see how exactly this setup works. Yeah, don't see Core use this one quite as often. I feel like I associate this one more with a Nor. I think of times when we've seen Core versus a Nor in this arena in particular, and we tend to see Core go the stowaway Bottled Void route, and a Nor go the imp Bottled Void route. Core goes Titan Tooth on Jody, though. That means she'll stun anyone that she jumps into. While Yiggly goes for a quick throwing Jody, which has Brazen Manor for potentially an extra burst of damage. Lastly for Core, takes Snadra and some additional starting Pyre life between that Talisman and Jody's starting Pyre life. Core at 165 here from the get-go. Through the portal he goes and banishes the last of the defenders, setting up this uncontested 30 damage throw. And you might have missed it there, but I believe there was a Bottled Void in that setup. Because that was it right there. It is a means to clear out room for Jody. You blink and you'll miss it, though. Remember, it's Tizo who has it. So he's blocked, then gets banished near the opposing Pyre. Core goes through the portal, and in doing so, because he has Sacred Bond, respawns Tizo, triggering the Bottled Void and either clearing out space for whoever it is who goes through that portal, or, in that case, just passing it back over to Tizo, as he was hanging out near the opposing Pyre. That time, I think he might have accidentally Bottled Voided himself?
Wait.
Is it still active here?
There was an invisible...
Looked like you still had the effects of it triggering there well after
There's
it went off.
Okay, there's an invisible object there.
Invisible hockey puck?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Some weird interaction.
Huh. It looked like you were getting sucked in close to the portal where you triggered the Bottled Void, even, you know, several seconds after having activated it.
I couldn't move to the center with my team.
That was interesting. Might have to look back at that one on a replay. But there is Core, plunging for the win with Jody.
And what a crushing victory it was.
So there's a look at a different setup
Night is done.
for Bottled Void, that time using an Imp plus Sacred Bond on a Nomad, so that you can go through the Imp's portal and in doing so, trigger the Bottled Void as well. Yeah, what I'd like to, yeah, it's pretty devious, especially when you have a big, high damage exile like Jody being the one that goes through the portal, because if you go through the portal, activate Bottled Void, and basically banish everyone nearby in the process, and if that's right next to the opposing Pyre, then there's no one to defend, you're right next to the Pyre, and you can then immediately follow up with a score with a high damage exile, 30 points or so from Jody, and that's a pretty big deal. And it all happened so quickly. Yeah, on the supposed invisible / additional hockey puck, I'd be curious to see, was it that there's quite literally an additional hockey puck, or was it just that one of the existing ones for some reason went invisible? The processing now, okay, we'll check the replay in a second. But in the meantime, let's reset ourselves here, and let us know if there's anything we'd like to see for the next one. It actually happens with imps too sometimes. There was something else. Yeah. I looked at it and it looked like it was as if Core was getting sucked into a Bottled Void well after he triggered it. But you think all 6 hockey pucks were visible? Yeah. So I don't know. Curious to see. Alright, here it is. Let's take a look. Thor says they were. And check the replay. Clearing out space for whoever it is who goes through that portal, or in that case. Alright, so this is what I thought. This is a Bottled Void Imp. So what I thought happened was Core went through the portal, triggered the Bottled Void, and then usually it's just a brief moment in which the Bottled Void sucks exiles in close like that black hole effect. But it looked to me like that was just happening for longer than usual. Like there's the Bottled Void. You can see the exiles getting sucked in. As he look very closely to see if any of these hockey pucks go invisible. He was hanging out near the opposing Pyre. Doesn't seem like it. But then there, see, I saw, oh no, that was the second Bottled Void, okay. So that might have been it, was I saw this second round of exiles getting sucked in, and I might have assumed that was the same Bottled Void when it was a distinct one. But that, right there, see, that, to me, looked like that was too late for the Bottled Void to continue to trigger there, and I saw Jody backing up for Core, and that seemed odd to me. That time, I think he might have accidentally Bottled Voided himself?
Wait.
Is it still active here?
There was an invisible...
Okay, there was a hockey puck.
Still had the effects of it triggering there well after
it
went off.
I still can't really make much sense out of it. See, Jody's aura is obscured by something. Ooh, okay. Hold on. That's a good sign. Let's take a look. Over here? Ah, okay, so you can see right there, there must be an invisible hockey puck, because you can see there's a little bite taken out of Jody's aura. So Core tries to walk this way, but he's going to get blocked. I see. Might have accidentally ball avoided himself? And that hockey puck must have been moving in this direction, which is why Jody not only could not move this way, she actually got pushed backward. Okay, I think I see what's happening. Some object that may not have been deleted correctly with the round changes? Alright, well, there's some food for thought for you all. Are we breaking the game with Ball of Void? Yeah, you know, possibly. Possibly.
We've broken the game with a lot of things.
Exactly, you know, that maybe that's not saying much. So is there anything we'd like to see for the next one? Or here, for that matter. Not seeing anything at the moment, so barring any last-second requests, why don't we jump into the next one here? And just have them take whatever they want to take.
The accusers.
Did I reset our arena? Oh, right, no, we had Karen last time. But we're back
Welcome
to the Glade quite quickly.
the rites.
Yiggly sticking to the infinite stamina Tizo. 4. This time going power casting Snadra. Hamatha next. Now a quick throwing manly for the first time this RITE NITE for Core. Or Saps by default have the largest throwing range, but it is generally a very slow throw, which may limit the effectiveness of those throws, but with the quick throwing talisman that can change significantly. Only have one team? No worries. No worries.
Jodariel.
And lastly, it's a Gilman for Core. And here we go, back at the Glade. We're here not long ago. Core used a very different setup on that occasion. Giggly has used much the same team here, but should still, given how Core switched things up, be a bit of a different showdown than we saw last time. This time you see Core using that Sap Team Shield to help protect Snadra, to facilitate her making her way into the opposing Pyre for a plunge. Also has the exploding saplings, gotta watch out for those, because they are surprisingly quick. Throw from Core is unblockable, and he does get it off in time for the full 15. Power cast from Snadra. And there is the shield. She shoulder smashes, but then gets banished as well. Down goes Manly. That leaves just Gilman back defensively. That is enough for Core. Now he launches the counterattack, and this time once again going the throwing route, though this time for slightly less, just 9. Big cast from Snadra nearly gets the double banishment, but not quite. Yiggly not going to let her hang out next to the Pyre. That leaves just Manly now. For Core defensively, so Yiggly making some moves here. Snadra, oh, back just in time to shoulder smash the attacker. And Core was about to charge up a throw. But Yiggly back defensively to stop that. Now it's Core on the attack. Snadra down. Yeoman. Plotting his next move, loops around. And finds the angle for an 8 damage throw. Power cast from Snadra once again gets 1. But this time, oh, nearly shielded that properly and protected Snadra, although not long enough to keep her alive. Tiso sets up a relatively dangerous portal, but no one back to defend for Yiggly right now. It's time for Core, in fact, time enough that he switches over to his higher damage character and can still get the throw off. 25 rather than just 20 damage that he would have had with Snadra. Well shielded, but once again, Snadra just can't hold on long enough. Ametha down to the exploding sapling. Or trying to get his Manly into throwing range, but can't do so this time. Snadra clearing out some room with those power casts. But Tiso has returned and stopped Snadra here. Good sidestep there from Yiggly. Making some moves, but Snadra shoulder smashes once again. Oh, look at this big play. Jody threw that portal right next to Core's Pyre, causing some trouble here. Oh, but Core on the counterattack. Throw is unblockable, but it's wide. Yiggly has it back. Jody in scoring position tried to get it to her, but wasn't quite quick enough. And goes through the portal, though, with Tiso, so he plunges for 15. No prayer beads on him, so he's gone for this round. Down goes Jody, that leaves just Pamitha back defensively. Core starts to throw, but thinks better of it, and, well, doesn't stop Yiggly from stopping that attack. Manly. Stopped by Jody. Jody versus Snadra. Snadra wins that duel. More power cast takes out Pamitha as well, and lots of time here for Snadra. Not only 20 damage, but 10 leech as well. Dropping Yiggly down to 3 and Core back up to 95 here. Snadra now trying to just power her way through with all those big casts, but she shoulder smashes the last defender. Tiso, will he return in time? Not so. Core plunges for the win.
They overwhelmed their adversaries utterly.
GG.
The rite is ended.
All right, let's head on back.
Until the stars align.
All right, and let us know, chat, if there's anything you'd like to see for the next one between these two. Oh, okay. All right then. Chat says it's time for the boat. Anything else to go along with that boat, or will that be all? Will be our first boat of the night. What makes the boat so polarizing? It is mostly the magical boat physics that are quite unique. In that whenever you jump over those portals, some unexpected things can happen. In some cases, it's beneficial. It can give you actually some additional jumping distance, potentially significantly enhanced jumping distance. In other cases, it can actually reduce your jumping distance or make it so that when you are done landing after your little hop over the portal, you have a bit of a recovery time, during which time you won't have your aura up, which can get you make you a little bit vulnerable.
Lids, can you put me as no customize?
Sure. So overall, I mean, that is in theory, but in practice it is just largely unpredictable. Which leads to some pretty wild and funny results at times. Boat magic indeed. Alright, why don't we get this one started then? Why don't we see just how crazy the boat physics are this time? Maybe it'll be a tame one. Sometimes we do have that happen. Sometimes it's not all that outlandish.
Shall take on the paths.
Then other times,
Welcome.
it's out of this world.
Who shall conduct the rites?
Oh, look at this. Look at this. Speaking of chaos and unpredictability, gotta try it yourself, hey. Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, heads up, you accidentally switched exiles there. Alright, we shall see. We shall see. Yiggly trying this for what I believe will be the first time. With the Bottled Void Chaos. And demons in particular tend to be the ones that benefit the most from the boat physics. So we shall see. Core has a randomized team here. And on that team, he has a harp of some variety. No prayer beads. Doesn't seem on Pamtha. She's gone for this round. There's a Dalbert. He's the one who just made that throw. As well as a Lady River. So there is a portal right next to Core's Pyre, which would have been very dangerous, although Core had an exile hanging out next to Yiggly's Pyre and had a quick counterattack set up there. Oh, and Living Flame. Okay, so that's extra 8 damage when Core is in the lead on his Pamtha. Core being persistent here with Dalbert, but cannot find a way to make that work. Core banishes everyone on Yiggly's side and might have been looking for a throw there, but momentum took him in for a plunge. So that means he is Lady Riverless in this round. Core checking for the salute, does not have it on Pamtha. But plunges for the win.
The Pyre prevail. They vastly
GG.
outperformed their adversaries. Thus end this night's proceedings.
Alright, let's head on back.
Until the stars
It's kind of just a
align.
bad map for it.
Yeah.
Glade and Cairn are like the best maps for Bottle Void.
Yeah, honestly, in some ways, your original team, just anything that is demon-centric on the boat, at least is a lot of fun. You can make the case it's a lot better. You can make the case that, well, it's just a lot more up to the luck that you're testing whenever you jump over one of those puddles. But sometimes, if you jump with a demon over one of those puddles, you can jump the entire length of the arena in one go, which is pretty incredible, especially if you have the orb when you do that, and you can quite literally jump all the way from next to your pyre to into your opponent's pyre, which is just always amazing when someone can pull that off. So that's always, at least to me, that's always the goal whenever you're on the boat with demons is, can I get a full arena slam dunk? But it is, to a certain extent, up to the will of the boat magic. Alright, and Nora's turn and customize off. That means randomize exiles, masteries, and talismans here. Won't get to see what those things are in advance. We'll just get thrown straight into the action.
I can maybe do 2 more if so, I mean I can play more, but if someone wants to get in after 2 more, I'd be able
Okay.
to hop out.
Oh, and reset the map. Good call. Oops, hold on. Let's see, did we... Talisman's back on. This looks fine. Okay. Alright, so yeah, we could set a map. We could set a song, but other than that, everything is accounted for here. So it looks like that will be all. In which case, let the guessing game begin. Okay, Isle of Kalamer, another chaotic arena.
Versus the Pyre.
For Yiggly, it's double demon and a cur. For Core, it is crone, sap, and savage. And it is Core starting things off with that Chrome, plunging for 30. We did see that Yiggly had some additional starting Pyre left, so still over 100 here. Core checking for the salutes, does not appear to have them, at least not with his Savage. Does have the exploding sapling with the sap, though. Yiggly has Brazen Manor with at least one of those demons, possibly both of them. But in the meantime, while Yiggly was checking that, Core plunges in for 20. The Crone has returned, but she's stopped just short of the Pyre, now banished, and here comes Yiggly. Looking to set up that Brazen Manor. Has it. So now if Yiggly can plunge quickly, or throw quickly, then that will be worth some additional points. But that attack is thwarted. Core with a bit of an opening here. And throws this one for 30. Double Brazen Manor. How utterly brazen indeed. That is true. Core tries to speed on through, but that's stopped. I guess Barker was the one who made it through there. Looked like they both just charged straight into each other. Core with his Savage. That's... Oh, has False Step. Look at that. Maybe no Bottled Void, but does mean he can still jump into opposing Exile's auras and immediately come back. A little bit more margin for error for that reason, but stopped before he could get the jump off that time, so Almer down for good that time. Or just barely enough distance on that jump to make it in. For 30 damage. Not enough from Almer, but it does trigger the false step. Oh, and look at that! Follows it up here for 20 damage plunge. And that gets Yiggly down to 5. Or can't quite line up those exploding saplings. And oh, Typhoon Bottle! Slowing Yiggly down. What would otherwise be a great scoring opportunity, as everyone on Core's side was banished. Core snakes around. Just needs a little bit of damage here, except look at this. It's a RITE Night. 20 rekindling for Yiggly. Yiggly holds on. Core once again. Throw is unblockable, but it's not enough. Yiggly still in it. Core, oh, just barely finds enough room to get in the winning plunge.
Good game.
Their adversaries must be crying tears of shame.
GG.
The ceremony is complete.
All right, let's head on back.
Until the next rite.
And let's turn Customize back on before we forget, unless, of course, it's something we want to do again. But let us know, chat, if there's anything else we'd like to see for the next one. I think Core was saying he's good for 1 or 2 more. In which case, we'll be looking to get someone else in the pretty near future. So heads up, if anyone is interested, and prepare yourself accordingly.
turn me back to no customized?
There you go. Cacao! Don't speak Russian. Please keep it to English. Look at that. Maybe no bottled void, but does mean he can... Almer was trapped in the middle with the savages. That is true. He was very trapped. Look at that. You are not wrong. I have no idea what you titled this clip, because I cannot read Cyrillic, but alas. It's automatic?
Yeah, I see it as English.
Wait, what?
It says Sally Savage to me.
I see Sally Savage there, but I see Cacao's messages in Cyrillic.
Oh, I see.
Is it like... Is that Russian for like... Cacao clipped this thing? And Twitch just auto enters that in your native language or something? Okay, yeah, exactly. Gotcha. Interesting. Any merit to the Harp's Apex upgrade, the stat increases. Definitely, yeah. I'm sort of a fan of 100% left side Harp, which means you're going all the way down to get, that's the +8 quickness. That's a pretty big difference maker. The Harps actually, by default, are quite slow. And so you really need either that 8 quickness from going all the way down the left side, or the first mastery on the right side, if I remember correctly, is the one that gives them the speed boost if they banished someone recently. And that also makes a big difference. So without those speed boosts, they are actually some of the slowest exiles. But it's just that those speed boosts are so significant that assuming you have one of them, it's easy to forget how much of a factor those are. Yeah, exactly. So I like the +8 quickness. But yeah, the natural superiority all the way on the right side, that one's definitely less common. I mean, in general, right side Harp has become less common. Initially, we used to see people go 50-50, left side, right side, I think, more often than not. Because Fell Swoop was, and still remains, one of the best masteries in the game, which is the second spot on the right side. But it just has fallen a little bit. It's become less popular. It's no less effective. Technically, we fixed a bug that was making it a little bit more effective. But, so you could justify going down to get Fell Swoop on the right side, and then investing one more mastery to go down to get the boost, the natural superiority boost in all your stats. I think generally people probably prefer to go more all in on one stat than they prefer to, or over mixing their stats across different categories. So that's probably why, if people are choosing one of the final Harp masteries, they tend to go for the one on the left side, the pure speed, rather than the one that is a mixture across multiple stats in natural superiority. But I think, as I was saying before, as I alluded to, another factor in that is probably because, in general, left side Harp has, as of late, been rising a lot in popularity, where that has, by definition, meant that right side Harp has become a little less popular. But yeah, that Aura Burst was the key appeal, and the first mastery on the right side as well. First mastery on the right side for the speed boost after banishing someone recently, plus Fell Swoop, is a really strong combo. So that was, once upon a time, the staple of Harp setups. But you just don't see it as often anymore, and therefore, if you aren't going to take that, probably not going to go all the way down to get the natural superiority. Yeah, the Harp Salute. I tell you, there was a time when no one, I mean absolutely no one, used that ability. I tried it once in a tournament to set up a Savage Throw And I didn't do very well in that tournament, but soon thereafter, it seemed like people realized, oh hey, you know, maybe there's some use for this, and then a bunch of people experimented with it more, started to find its way working itself into more team compositions, and now it's gotten to the point today where it's definitely the most popular way to set up harps.
You can put me on customize now.
Okay. In general, the salutes have definitely... More salutes have become more popular as time has gone on. The saluting harp to switch places with an allied exile, the teleportation salute with the savages, like Ninja Savage was not a thing until we had some amazing research from Lag Machine to uncover that combo. And then exploding saplings as well. Alright, but shall we get this one started? Core says, maybe I'll demonstrate. That's in Ninja Sap. Oops. Ninja Savage, exploding sapling sap.
Shall take on the Pyre arts.
What, you haven't seen a Ninja Sap before?
Welcome. Who shall conduct?
I mean, let's be honest, that's basically what nutrition stick saps are. Oh, okay. Yiggly breaking out the bottled void on Tizo, and we were saying before, maybe the boat wasn't the best place to try that out, but Bolusolium may be a better fit.
Exile.
Spooky Crookie, what? Alright, you lost me. Salute into a sap. Exactly. It's a component of the ninja team. You have a saluting harp, savage, and sap. And when you happen to find yourself switching the harp into a sap, then you just immediately plunge into the pyre. We've actually seen someone do that quite a bit. There is a specific person in chat who, you know, has made a bit of a point of trying that combo out.
Ignatius.
Yeah,
Someone who-
it's idle.
Someone who has been so bold as to put prayer beads on a sap. Alright, then it's a Bright Wisp Jody. So Yiggly switching things up a little bit more here. That means Jody will pass the orb if she has it when she gets banished. Then Core sticking to the fundamentals here. Webland Thorn Imp in the last spot. So here we go. Luminous Idol Harp, of course, means whenever he picks up the orb with that harp, he will get full stamina back. Or sets up a portal right on top of Yiggly's Pyre. That is, of course, extremely dangerous. But it's Yiggly still on the attack here. Setting up a dangerous portal as well. Not as dangerous, though, because that is the portal right there, giving Core what is more or less an automatic plunge. Does mean no Iggy for this round. Ametha is stopped, but sets up a portal very close to Yiggly's Pyre here. Not quite as directly on top of it as it once was, but Core perhaps looking to change that here. Marginally closer now, still not quite sure if it counts as being directly on it, but here is Yiggly. Makes it all the way through with the Imp for 15. And that, of course, resets Core's Pyre. Or rather, resets Core's portal, I should say. Or looking to switch in again, and perhaps considered plunging with the Imp, but thought, you know, I'd rather use the Imp to set up a portal, so that one of my higher damage exiles can be the one that ultimately gets the scoring play instead. That is exactly what he's looking to do here, I think. As he has that Iggy hanging out next to his Pyre, just waiting to plunge for significantly more damage. Here he is. But he's stopped. Now it's headwind for Yiggly. Nearly fakes out Pamitha, or rather Zaxiana here. Zaxiana gets some reinforcements. Switches in for the higher damage exile, Ignarius. Banishes one defender, but Yiggly got it back here. Ooh, Core takes the orb back. Using that Luminous Idol to continue to get back full stamina so he can sprint all over the place. Not going anywhere with it though. Not yet at least. But perhaps this is the opening he's waiting for. Setting up the Ignarius switch and plunge for 48 damage.
Now go on, just once more. The orb is up.
Pamitha, she stopped this time. The Bottled Void working out for Yiggly that time as well to help set that up. Or, oh, sneaks past for the winning plunge, no less.
Higher hearts prevail.
Good game.
Excellently
GG.
done this time, I must admit. The rite is complete.
48 damage, exactly. It is a scary sight.
Until the next rite.
All right, well. Well, no worries, Yiggly.
I can continue playing, but if anyone wants to jump in, they're welcome to.
All right, is there anyone in chat? Core is volunteering to swap out. Would anyone like to hop in his spot? As I was saying before, I think in all likelihood we will probably keep this RITE Night slightly shorter than usual, so bear that in mind. Perhaps we'll try to rotate through people a little bit more quickly than usual, so that way we can still get people, as many people in, hopefully just as many people in as we did before, just with a little less time directly in the matches. Okay, let's see. We can get... Where are you? Some noob. Invite sent. Exactly, a lot of them are these builds, these abilities, these talismans that at first glance you look at them and you say, that just feels like that's totally impractical. Why would I ever want to use this? It just seems like it's a bother. And probably not worth it to go through the setup, right? And then the wording can be confusing as well. But in many of those cases, it's just a matter of finding, okay, is there something? Oftentimes, there's at least one mastery that works really well with a given setup. Or if we're talking about a mastery, it's one talisman that suddenly really enables that mastery. And when you find those combos, it's like, hold on a second. This thing that previously I just thought nothing of, I can see the appeal all of a sudden. Yeah, let's see. Remind me, are you going mouse keyboard or are you going controller? I do not recall. I may need to give you mouse keyboard controls as well. Keyboard mouse, okay, there we go. Give you the controls. Let's look at what they are set for. All good? All right, let us return. And let me name on and what's not. Okay, and remind me, which triumvirate would you like to be today? What are you feeling? Who would you like to be? Gonna go Chastity? Okay, gotcha. Let me set you up here as well then. No more Pyre Hearts for you, but yes to the Chastity. Okay, nice. Alright, so anything we'd like to see for this one. Gotta play Soxiana if you use a harp. I mean, she is the Chastity Harp member. Or the Harp Chastity member. You know what I mean. Not seeing any requests at the moment, though, so maybe we'll give some noob a little bit of time to warm up here before we throw anything too outlandish.
The accusers shall confront the
I mean, it is technically the Harp Arena, for what it's worth.
who shall conduct the rites.
Alright, and Yiggly is sticking with this Bottle of the Void setup, trying to find a way to make it work. Trying to test it out more thoroughly here. It's a little gimmicky, but when it works, it is a lot of fun. There's a quick throwing stowaway for some noob. Connection's getting a little choppy. Okay. Let me know if it starts to get really bad, in which case I can uninvite you and re-invite you sometimes. That can fix things up a little bit. I just said, if it starts to get really bad, let me know and I can uninvite you and re-invite you. Sometimes that fixes things up a little bit. Oh, and that's Pyre trying to tab out on my side. Do that before we start? Okay, yeah, why don't I do that right now? Why don't we give that a shot now? Okay. Invite resent. Is Duff gonna appear in today's commentary? Probably not. We were offering for Duff to participate directly in the rites. We were saying how Duff commentated last week, but maybe this would be a good time to get him to participate more directly. Said he was busy at the time, but maybe it's still possible a little bit later on today to make that happen. We'll have to see.
Headwind.
But I think only Duff can really answer that question. Duff was in chat before, I'm not sure if he still is. And look at that, you love to see it. That's the nutrition stick, although I believe it was on Manly, was it not? Then again, I suppose some noob is representing the chastity, so fair enough. Fair enough. Technically, it is not the speedy setup of the initial Civil War anyway, so not that controversial of a decision, regardless. Jody in the last spot for Yiggly. Then an exploding Gilman in the last spot for some noob, and this will be our first showdown of the day between Yiggly and some noob. I don't recall as to whether these two have faced off against each other before. There's a chance that they have not. Here is some noob with Gilman, trying to find the right time and angle to make the move, but unsuccessful this time. Yiggly trying to press forward. It's a free orb, which Yiggly claims, though not for long. Yiggly on the aggressive moves here. 30 damage plunge coming from that Jody, and now no prayer beads on her means she will not be back in this round. So Yiggly down 1 exile, 2 after having fallen into the lava there. So advantage some noob in that sense. Oh, but look at that Bottle of Void slowing down some noob, and perhaps might have done just enough to stop that score. Though still enough time on the second attempt to get in a throw there with the Savage for 20. Yiggly back to full strength now. Some noob on the attack once again with the stowaway. Unsuccessful on the throw, but she follows up with a teleportation and takes out Jody in the process. Tizo. Back to Headwind. Headwind nearly found an opening there. The Stunning Claim stops everyone in their tracks. But other than that, doesn't change much here as it's Yiggly back in possession now. With Jody. Can't make it past Manly. But Jody returns here, and suddenly there is an opening. Oh, but the exploding sapling, what? Somehow, some noob finds a way to do just enough to stop Yiggly there from what seemed to be an uncontested score. It worked! Oh, and the Bottle of Void nearly there. Looked like it might have dispossessed the stowaway, but not quite. It looked like she just had this brief moment of hesitation, but still able to get the throw off and score for 20 there. But now it's Yiggly following up for 15 with the Imp. Ooh, quick attack there from some noob, but Yiggly in position defensively to stop it. Jody narrowly avoiding banishment and follows up with a throw to take out one of the would-be defenders. Here's Headwind. Close to the Pyre, but trying to find a way past Manly and cannot do so. Of course, no Tizo in this round after he was the one to plunge for Yiggly. Yiggly trying to bring back Jody, but cannot do so. And so, a bit of an opportunity here for some noob with an uncontested 25 damage throw, as I believe C's chance must have been active there. If some noob banished someone recently with Gilman, that gives him 10 extra damage. Otherwise, he'd usually just be on 15. It is Nutrition Stick Manly, it is. Indeed. Jody. Now Tizo. Tizo sets up a portal, which Jody goes through, but goes down. Does bring Tizo back from banishment. He's now on the opposite side of the arena, and that means time and space for some noob here, but not enough to get the throw off. That was intercepted by Yiggly. Yiggly now back on the orb. Portal takes Yiggly about halfway across. That's not enough to get Jody through, as she's banished. Throw from some noob is intercepted. Yiggly brings back Jody, brings back everybody, including with the Ball of Void, banishing one of some noob's characters. Gilman stops short, but gets the orb back here. The throw is short. Gilman still continuing to cause some problems here, but Yiggly fends off that attack and is now on the attack. But Jody, steps away from a big plunge there, and instead, it's Tizo going in for 15 here. Oh, and look at that. The jump takes the stowaway right in front of the Pyre, but has just enough time and composure to realize, now I can throw this one in and stay in for the next round. Series of banishments here. And with that portal right near where the orb is, Yeekly keeps on sending people through, causing some trouble. But it's some noob here. With only Gilman. Oh, but a well-timed stunning claim means only the stowaway can move, and that sets up the winning throw. GG.
Their adversaries confidently thwarted. Thus end this night's proceedings.
Very well done. Well played, you two.
Until the stars align.
All right, well, chat, let us know if there's anything we want to see for the next one. No worries, Eagly. Thanks for stopping by. Good to have you. Good to have you. I can give you the boots. But thanks for stopping by. And that does mean we'll be looking for someone to hop in here to take Eagly's spot. So is there anyone who'd like to face off here against some noob? Preferably someone who can play on controller, as some noob is on keyboard mouse, and we cannot have two keyboard mouse people playing against each other. So, I mean, we have, as of late, had several instances in which two normally keyboard mouse players wanted to, or were slated to go up against each other. Because we weren't able to do that, we had one, or more often than not, both of them go with their suboptimal playstyle, have them both switch to controllers. So, are they willing to suffer together? Or do we have someone who prefers to play on controller, who could jump in here to face off against some noob? So most of the people I see conversing in chat right now, the ones pondering it, are the keyboard mouse players, the ones that would need to use their suboptimal setup. Sounds like Anora's still willing to do it, though. If her connection holds up, well, let's give it a shot. Alright, invite sent. And Nor, I assume, Night Wings for you? Yep, okay. Alright, do you need a quick controls check here? Or are you all set? You'll go controller as well? Okay, hold on. Just a minute? Okay, yeah. I don't think we have had both people plug in controllers just yet. In which case we might need to verify who's player one and who is not player one. Oh, also, wait, what? Why is it? Why you do this? Hold on. Just screen is actually frozen. But it is no more. I was like, I have switched Anor's Triumvirate. It should show up as the Nightwings, but it is not doing that. Okay. Theoretically, you have both controllers plugged in now. Let's see if we can get a sense of... theoretically, according to remote play, it is some new player 1 and or player 2. But if one of you could hit your... hold on 1 second. Hold on, let me just do that. Trying to get you both set on controller. Now someone has unplugged their controller, apparently. Anor did. Hold on. 1 moment. Now I theoretically see it. Okay. Let's... if someone could just hit the bumpers on their controller and see which triumvirate they change, that can confirm who's player 1 and who's player 2. And or whoever is able to move around their cursor, that is player 1. I don't think yours is working. If you're player 2, that means you won't be able to move your controller around. That may just be confirmation. Yeah, it looks like some noob is player 1 and Anor is player 2. I think that's not even bumpers, though. That is a little odd. Let's see. That is kind of strange. Let's start setting this up. Switch you guys around, but that is a little peculiar. It is a little peculiar. Unless your batteries decided to run out, maybe. Maybe. Remote play say anything in particular? Remote play suggests that your controller is still there. Shall we attempt to proceed here and see if it still works out and maybe it's just Pyre / remote play being difficult? Giving us a false positive. It is batteries? Okay. Looks like, assuming that is you having put in your batteries now able to use your bumpers, that it is fine now? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Alright, so is there anything we'd like to see between some noob and Anor here? Bear in mind, both playing on their suboptimal, however you want to phrase it, setup. Both are keyboard mouse players, but because we cannot use 2 people on keyboard mouse simultaneously, Pyre cannot handle it. We have them both playing on controller. But is there anything we'd like to see between them? If not, then of course we'll just have them take whatever they want to take. In which case, why don't we do that? Just in time for Anor's favorite arena.
Welcome. Who shall conduct the rites?
The Book of Cringe. And some noob Starts off with Barker here. Turns out pink is his raiment color of choice. Then Anor goes Prayer Bead Stowaway. Just checking the lore here real quick. Making sure that this team makes sense together and whatnot. Because, you know, like, would Udmilda realistically team up with Barker? I wouldn't rule it out. Anor goes Wedland Thorn Tizo. Then it's a power casting Lendl for some noob in the last spot. And finally, a Titan Tooth Pamitha for Anor. So here we go, the first showdown between some noob and Anor in today's RITE NITE. Both players playing on controller when they would normally be preferred keyboard mouse people, but that's not stopping Anor from plunging here for 20 with the stowaway to start things off. Barker retreats. Now makes his move, but goes down quickly. Stowaway down as well. Anor, somehow avoided banishment, at least initially, but some noob able to recover. Barker out of stamina here, waiting to get some back so we can hop over the defenders. Anor getting into position. Meanwhile, some noob taunts with the salute and gets punished for doing so. Anor with the stowaway, once again here, plunging for 20. Did take prayer beads on her, so she has returned. Some noob goes around the other way. And sneaks around for a 20 damage plunge with Barker. He took prayer beads as well, so he's back. But it's Anor once again here with the stowaway. Barker for some noob. Waiting to bait out the defense. But Anor takes the orb back here. Unsuccessful on that attack with Pamitha. And here's some noob. Oh, Anor nearly teleports the orb and almost had a clean alleyway to the Pyre. But some noob was not going to be taken aback, not going to be surprised by a sneak attack like that. Pamitha nearly makes it in there, but the Titan Tooth stuns some noob, giving Anor time to follow up with this plunge here for 20, and that means one more of those scores could be all that Anor needs. Will it be the stowaway? Not this time. Udmilda. Oh, uses the Crone Salute, transforming all of Anor's exiles into defenseless Howlers. Setting up this uncontested 30 damage throw. The Ace up some noob's sleeve, but of course can only use it once. And that was it. So cat's out of the bag now. And there is the winning plunge for Anor. GG.
Their adversaries without too much trouble. The ceremony is complete.
All right, let's head on back.
Until the stars align.
And let us know, chat, if there's anything that we'd like to see for the next one. Oh, a recent Headwind birthday? Surviving exile? Okay. Sort of. Basically his theme. Along with Ruki and Jody. Also gonna say, I'm pretty sure Nora has said in the past this is her favorite song. Alright, so we have the song all set up. Anything else? That's it from Anor. We have a song. Oh, well. Well. No, that is not all. Because we have a boat. We have a boat. Might as well. Well, we already have a song. Do you mean to do exile? I mean, you can just... You misclicked. We can just call that an exile's request. It's fine. Is that what you meant? Misclick? Yeah, I mean, the songs and exiles and masteries all cost the same amount, so... Knights of the Sea for later? Okay. No worries, just remind me after this one. Just remind me after this one. Okay, but perhaps that is all then. We have Surviving Exiles as our song, we have the boat as our arena. And the idea was, we had a recent Headwind birthday. To remember which day specifically it was? I thought I remembered seeing some people posting it in Discord. It's a few days ago, right? The 29th? Oh, not long ago, okay. That's fair.
Welcome. Who shall conduct the rites?
A little ironic that we are celebrating Headwind's birthday on the boat. Not exactly Headwind's favorite arena, but fair enough. It's a sign of his personal growth. He has become a better man. Exactly, Yiggly, that's what I'm getting at. And for a second there, it looked like we were going to see Headwind leading off for both teams. And Nora opted not to go that route. I imagine we will still see Headwind from her at some point in time. Some noob also going with the demon, though in this case it's Oralek. And there's Headwind. And Bald Void Tizo, or rather, Wet Lanthorn Tizo. Very different in the last spot for some noob. Yeah, that's a pretty meta team from some noob there. Oh, hold on a second. Speaking of Bottled Void, an orb breaks out here with what amounts to be the original trio here. And you got a little bit of a glimpse from Anora's jump with Jody, how you can get the extra jumping distance on the boat whenever you go over a portal, even a little bit from Headwind's leap there, though, as I was saying earlier today, tends to be most prominent when it comes to the demons. Orlek perhaps more so than any other. So keep your eyes peeled for any Air Orlek appearances today in this right, and here is Orlek. Certainly not that occasion, as this time he just walked this one in for 25. He does have prayer beads though, so he has returned. Here is Orlek, he's lining it up. He's thinking about it, oh, sets up the Brazen Manor. And he was going for it. Trying to chain one puddle to the next to get a couple of extra bursts of airtime. You know, it was not exactly on target, but we'll give it to him. That was a big leap from Jody. See if Anora looks to do the same thing here. Big leap both forward and backward. Not really the airtime she's looking for on that occasion, though. And she goes down. Orlek. Hopping around, but no luck this time. Headwind. He avoids banishment. Pretty big leap from Jody there, and an opening, perhaps. Knocks back the defender, and follows it in for 30 on that plunge. Yeah, perhaps it's not so much that Headwind gets seasick, as much as he just hates the boat physics. And that's why he doesn't like participating on the boat, although he does make it in here for 20. For Anor. No prayer beads on him, so he is out for this round. Jody, oh, look at that! There's a good example of your extra airtime now, if that were just redirected slightly. Anor looked like she might have had enough momentum to make it in there. Just didn't really expect to have that much speed. Here's Orlek on the counterattack. He's dispossessed and banished, though. Anor, oh, big banishment for some noob. Anor has to wait for either Jody or Rookie to return, and with that quick respawn on Rookie, that did make a difference there. But some noob with that portal right next to Anora's Pyre, it is causing some trouble for sure. There's a bit of an extra leap, but some noob is unfazed. Nor does still have Rookie there defensively, but he's outnumbered here. So some noob ups to plunge, has prayer beads on Orlek, so no big deal there. Not a huge difference between throwing or plunging. Jody banished. Headwind goes under the defender that time. That time goes over, but then gets banished. Orb remains unclaimed here, for what it's worth. For a second there, it looked like people forgot about the objective of the game. It's one thing to banish your opposing exiles, but you do need the orb to score. And Anor has it back here, and ooh, big jump from Jody. Nearly sets her up for an uncontested plunge, though not quite enough on it. And so, some noob on the counterattack here, plunging for 15. With his Tizo, who is now out for this round. Anor with Jody, blocked this time. Has it back. Now banished. Big snipe from Headwind, getting rid of the other Headwind. Big jump from Orlek, although on that occasion might not have helped all that much. And actually jumping back, got shoulder smashed. Big airtime on that one, but ultimately backfired a bit. Orlek versus Jody. Jody wins out. And everyone down on some noob side. If Jody is quick, she has a chance here. Headwind has returned, but she staggers him. And that makes an opening here. dropping some noob down to just 20 Pyre life, which means a Jody plunge, a headwind plunge, or even a rookie plunge. Not a rookie throw, but a rookie plunge. Any of that would do. No Jody in this round, though, after she went in with a plunge for an ore. It's a numbers advantage to some noob for that reason. Edwin could still get the job done here. Not this time. And now, definitely distinct numbers advantage for some noob. Whoa! Look at that! That's the kind of leap we're talking about. Jumped so far, you lost track of where he went. And now that means we're tied up at 20 apiece. Next score likely do the trick. Could this be it? Or like a shoulder smashed. But he comes back and it's Headwind who plunges for the win. GG.
So narrowly achieved, and thus more glorious. The rite is done.
Well played. Can someone explain Void Dog? Different idea behind it, where the other Bottled Void setups we had looked at previously were all based around having a way to quickly revive those characters, whether it be with the portrait, stepping on the portrait, brought to you by the Sacred Bond from a Nomad, or by the false step on a Savage. When you jump into an opposing exile and get banished at the end of your jump, you automatically respawn, triggering Bottled Void. In this case, it's with the Lucky Break mastery that the Curs have, which gives them a 50% chance of coming back after just 1 second. And so basically, you're banking on that 50% chance to proc, and so if the Cur does get banished, it comes back quickly, and it's a way of quickly triggering that Bottled Void. You can't count on it per se, because it is purely a matter of RNG, but it is, so it's less reliable than the other Bottled Void setups that we were looking at earlier today, but it is something that we occasionally see people break out. Was this the huge jump? Let's take a look at what Failer clipped here. I think it was so big that it was, you couldn't even see where he went. Look at this. Sets up the Brazen Manor. Here comes Orlek. Ooh. He jumped so high that, what did he even hit? Like, it looked like he hit this, but it might have just been that he was so high up that it looked like he was over there, but he was actually all the way over here and hit the wall. Like, he hit this wall, but he was so high up that he bumped into it. Like, hold on. Distinct numbers advantage for some noob. Whoa! Like, look at that. He bounces off of something, and it looks like it's this wall. Even though it appears as though he's over there, or closer to this obstacle. But it's as if he hit something to this side of him, which to me suggests he's just so high up that he hits this wall, and it looks like he's over there because of the crazy height. And so he kind of bounces off in this direction. Look at that! That's the kind of leap we're talking about. So from start to finish, uninterrupted. Definitely distinct numbers advantage. Brazen Manor to Orlek. Crazy jump, bounces off something, and eventually finds a way in. Beautiful. Just absolutely glorious indeed. That is what we're talking about when we're saying, can we get some nice demon jumps on the boat? That's what you're looking for. Ideally, straight into the Pyre. No wall bouncing, no landing elsewhere on the field. No, you're going straight into the Pyre for an even more dramatic slam dunk. Although, can't complain about the crazy heights that we saw on that leap. Brazen Manor as well, for good measure. Alright, and Nor will be right back, but in the meantime, let us know, chat, if there's anything we'd like to see for the next one. Some noob, you had... It was Knights of the Sea you said you wanted for your song request, right? I think it was. Am I remembering correctly? Yeah, the lower wall of the arena, I think so. I think that's what he crashed into. Even though it didn't look like it, because... lower wall is a little misleading. when you are bumping into the lower wall about 30 feet in the air. Oh, okay. Okay. Cacao has made a talisman request for prayer beads on a sap. Now, we spoke about it briefly earlier today, how the quote-unquote ninja sap, if you will. What might that entail? And I think this could be it. And the very person who I alluded to, who has done it several times in the past, was in fact Cacao. So not surprising to see that it is Cacao making this request here. So of course that means that's a specific talisman and a specific exile as well. Prayer beads on a sap is the request. Prayer beads on a sap. Unconventional, but there actually are some ways to put it to use. Anything else we'd like to have in addition to that? Exactly, that's the secret name. Anor, we have prayer beads on a sap as the request that we've received. At the moment, it's just that. And that is pretty crazy. So why don't we get this one started? Oh, and add a little more chaos to it as well. At the Isle of Kalamer.
The night winds. Welcome. Who shall conduct the rites?
Something tells me, Cacao, that that was the intention. That is not a coincidence. Alright, but the question, perhaps the more important question may be, how do the players choose to build around this prayer bead sap? As it is an odd one. Do you have other things to help enable it? In some noob's case, it's an exploding Gilman. And in Or's case, it's a Titan Tooth saluting harp. Then here is the prayer bead sap for some noob. But in the meantime, Anor goes Speedy Jody. Then, of course, that means Anor still needs that prayer bead sap. So there it is. Alright, here we go. A prayer bead sap showdown. Now, will the players just choose to ignore this sap and try to score with their other exiles, or will they actually try to find a way in? Well, there's your answer. There is your answer. An immediate Volfred prayer beads plunge, set up by the harp salute. And there's another one. Ametha does it herself this time, plunging in for 20. Now, she does not have prayer beads, of course. That means she's out for this round. And it did seem as though she was a key component to set up plunges for Nor, whether it be Ametha herself or for Volfred. So without her, that could make things rather difficult. But here's Jody. Getting closer, but blocked and banished. Now for some noob. Luminous Idol. Using that to help propel Zoxiana closer to the opposing Pyre, but still gets taken out here. Now it's Jody. Knocks back one defender. And a second. And sneaks past the third for the winning plunge.
Their pyre yet burns with vigor and resolve. The rite is complete.
GG. And let's head on back. If we stop getting the cursed track here, you know, we can do that. And then maybe, possibly, there.
Until the next rite.
No worries. All right, let us reset our song here. But let us know if there is anything we'd like to see for the next one. Stylish Blink and Walk from Volfred True. Alright, well, let us know if there is anything else we want to see for the next one. If not, we'll just have these two take whatever they want to take. Which, you know, maybe after a prayer bead sap they'd like to do. But who knows? And alright, Anor says, no, there will be no choosing at all in this match. Customize will be turned off. That means randomized exiles, masteries, and talismans. Won't even get to see what they are in advance. We'll just get thrown straight into the action here. Oh. A choice, you say? The choice to choose not to choose. I see. What cursed talisman will appear? The correct answer is yes. Now let us begin.
The chastity shall take
Well, we're back on the book.
the night wings.
It is that Orlek? I think that might be Orlek. It is Orlek and Gareth, two true Nightwings, plus Palmus for some noob, and then for Nor it is Volfred, Sir Deluge, and Dalbert. See, as both players try to figure out what their setup is here. See exploding saplings for some noob.
One and all.
Well, that is everyone down here for some noob, and from that range, that may be an unblockable throw from Volfred. Did see some noob have additional starting Pyre life, so still at 100 even after that score. And Dalbert scoops that back up, and nearly makes it in, but has lucky break, so he comes back quickly. Orlek. He makes it in for 25.
The chastity are now favored to
Anor locks down the orb with the sapling. And presses onward here, tries to bulldoze her way through. And now it's Dalbert. Runs out of stamina, gets some back
sublime.
to set up this 20 damage plunge.
Now to the flame.
A well-placed sapling, but Orlek didn't care. He scooped up the orb nonetheless. And plunged for 25. Gareth. So stylish. Oh, so stylish with that jump. Look at that.
The orb quenches the flame.
Meanwhile, Dalbert is plunging for 20. Orlek blocked and banished. Deluge. No stunning claim on the salute. Titan Tooth.
Threw it in.
Didn't catch Wick's Exile it was that had that, but it is, of course, quite potent talisman. It's either on Deluge or is it possibly Orlek? No, possibly Palmus on some noob's side. That could become a factor here as we are very close here, practically tied. This throw is unblockable though, but it is off target. Here comes some noob. Gareth. Oh, look at that! Well shielded from Volfred, but down he goes nonetheless. Opening perhaps for Dalbert, but not enough stamina to see it all the way through. On the second attempt though, he does make it in for 20. Orlek seemingly jumps past the Pyre that time. But down he goes. Deluge stopped just short of the Pyre. Double sapling blocking the orb, and so only fitting that they both go down simultaneously. Opportunity here perhaps for Gareth. So he throws it in for 20. Orlek. Vanished. And Or applying some pressure here. Moving in aggressively with Volfred. Now retreats back. Goes with a two-pronged attack. One side Deluge, the other side Volfred. And that throw lands for 22. Dropping some noob down to 4. Now, both players do have saps. So it is possible we may see some rekindling. What have we learned about our saps thus far? We see an exploding sapling. I know we have on some noob side. And that is the same... No, that is the opposite side as the rekindling is, right? So that means at most some noob would have 10, I believe. Haven't seen much from Minora's sap, which might mean most of her masteries are invested in that rekindling. Don't think we've seen the exploding saplings for her. Row from Minora looks wide. It is. Here's some noob, and thus that was the stun on the talisman. As we saw from Titan Tooth before, we weren't sure which side it came from, but it looks like it is in fact Palmus for some noob. Oh, Orlek takes himself out there. Deluge vanished as well. Gareth. Past the defenders. Ooh, but goes down. Deluge. Or rather, Dalbert. Vanished, but Lucky Break will bring him back quickly. Snore with a wall of defenders here to stop Gareth. But Volfred is banished. Deluge is banished. That leaves just Dalbert. He retreats. Goes the other way. I can't find a way through. Gareth. To Orlek. 360. But just leads him backwards. Trying to thin out some of these defenders to create some space. It gets blocked instead. And now banished. And Nor in a dangerous position here. A safe spot from which to throw that orb. And there is the rekindling. As we suspected, it is 10. So some noob onto the second life bar now. Holding on. The next score, of course, likely all Anor would need, and could this be it? Not this time. There's the Titan Tooth stunning Anor. It's opportunity here for some noob with Orlek. Plunges for 25, dropping Anor down to 5, and that, of course, means one score for some noob would at least be enough to trigger that rekindling. We suspect Anor might have some too. Anor, of course, still on her first life bar. Same cannot be said of some noob. Bolfred for Anor. Links in. Is he in throwing range? Well, it won't matter now, as he does get banished. Galber gets close, gets it back for the winning plunge. GG.
I thought for certain they would not. The rite is ended.
Well played indeed.
Until the stars align.
All right, let's turn back on customize, unless of course we want to turn it back off, in which case let us know. Let us know if there's anything else you'd like to see. Surprisingly, no cursed talismans. Curse Arena, though, perhaps that was it. All cursed talismans, says some noob. You won't get away this time. Just had to be done. It just had to be. No! Technically speaking, it is possible. Technically speaking, this is one of the specific circumstances in which it is possible to do triple sap on both sides without breaking the game. Normally it would break the game, but it is the number of saplings that causes the game to implode. And so if one sap on each side is prevented from creating a sapling because it has a cursed talisman, that is technically a workaround. It would break the game if we did not also have the cursed talismans. Yes, this is generally the way to set the record for the longest rites. We did in fact see a 47-minute rite based on this premise. Anora says anything but the book, please. Exactly. Game can't handle more than 4 saps at a time. Not the boats. We'll lock it in at the nest. For what it's worth, the nest was the location of the original longest rite ever, which was, in fact, the foundation upon which the first Civil War was born. Speedy Bolfred versus Quarterback Manly. We will have to see if we will find something similar this time around. Of course, we will not see the same talisman selections. As with all cursed talismans, they will not be able to get a Speedy Bolfred or a Quarterback Manly. So we have Exiles, we have Arena, we have Talismans. I don't know, I mean, we're going to be sitting here for quite a while, guys, so let's take a minute. If you have, pull out the popcorn. Throw it in the microwave. You're going to want it. Is there a specific song that we would like to be hearing for this match? Nora's like, I have chips, but I'm going to be playing for this match. And Nora was prepared. She's on the wrong side of the equation here. Grand ceremony it shall be. I hope you thought about that one carefully because we may very well be listening to it for the next 40 minutes. Let's see, Cacao, were you the one that requested the talismans in the first place? You may have been. You did exiles. No, it was some noob that did talismans, okay. Certain plan, actually? Okay. I know it's like, on second thought, hold on. Let me switch that up. Right, you can't go for Manly's theme, you have to go for Full Friend's theme. I see how it is. I see how it is. Yeah, whatever we play here is functionally the equivalent of about 5 rounds of whatever song we select, right? Probably. So if we've already met our grand ceremony quota, then we would far exceed it if we were to double down on it here. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. And that means that just about covers it, right? Don't think there's anything else we can do for this one. So, as I was saying, chat, make sure you have your beverage of choice. You have your snack of choice. This could be a while. Get your timers ready as well. Get your timers ready as well. Seems like the first few times we did this type of setup with the all saps, that's when we tended to get things in the 40-minute range. As of late, we've done something similar to this on a few occasions. It has generally been considerably shorter than that, but we shall see. Mashup. We technically speaking, hold on a second. I think we actually can. I think we actually can if we use TariqBot. Hold on. Galaxy Brain Strat. What if we do both? What if we do both? Record is 47 minutes, so that's the key number we're looking at here. That will be the key number to bear in mind. Can we get an official timer? Can we perhaps get someone in chat to be our official timer? Let's see. All right, we should have now TariqBot set up to alternate between Grand Ceremony and certain plans. So that way, it's fitting. We have 2 SAP themes for a SAP-only match, and, you know, if it does end up going for 40 minutes, then get a little more variety. It's not the same song played non-stop for 40 minutes straight, which is probably, you know, in all of our best interests for maintaining what shred of sanity we have left. All right, and failure time? Okay, perfect. Okay, everybody, let's all take a nice, deep breath. And prepare ourselves. Because this could be a while. Right, turned off in-game music here. So that we have the TariqBot providing. Or did I turn off the wrong one? Hold on, did I do the wrong one? No, it's correct. What are you talking about? What? Cacao just messing with me. Cacao is trying to make it sound like we not set this up properly. We have. Alright, so of course, this setup. Triple saps. Yeah, no, I set it up to alternate. It should alternate from one to the next. See? There we go. Yeah, I can't alternate in-game. We would need TariqBot to do that, so turned off in-game music and instead replaced it with TariqBot. Dare I say, it is because TariqBot, in this case, is actually a little bit smarter. Not often that we can give TariqBot that kind of credit. Alright, so as a reminder, the Cursed Talismans. One will prevent exiles from casting. One will prevent them from picking up the orb. And one has a 50-50 chance of either bringing them back with infinite stamina or bringing them back as a defenseless howler. And again, that is the only reason why we can do this in the first place, because the game normally would completely crash if we had 3 saps in particular, because we can't have all saps creating saplings, but since 1 exile per team cannot do that, we're fine. Of course, the other question is how much rekindling do players go for? We see that some noob is going all in on Manly here. Of course, if both players maximize rekindling, it is 150 Pyre Life on their second round, and that is actually, of course, more Pyre Life than they would start off with, which is perhaps the primary reason why these matches take a long time, in addition to the fact that just saps in general are very defensive, not very offensive, and so hard to score at all with them. And here we go, an all-sap showdown, all Cursed Talismans. Let the timer begin, and let us see just how long of a match are we in for here, because we could be here for quite some time, as this will become a bit of a territory war between the two of them, because as you can see from what some noob is doing here, you can set up quite a wall with all of your saps and saplings that will be quite difficult for your opponent to find a way through. So a lot of it comes down to finding a good, aggressive place to place your saplings early. That way, you can control the arena and work your way ever closer to your opponent's Pyre, because nothing's going to happen quickly here. There is Anor getting one of the Cursed Talismans to trigger here, turning one of her saps into a Cursed Howler, which is faster than the saps, but it can't jump, it can't sprint, so it is less maneuverable in that way. And for a moment there, Anor was defenseless. Nearly enough time for some noob to make a move there, but the Numbing Gust slowed some noob down just enough to prevent some noob from capitalizing on that opportunity. And again, that is the thing, is these saps, they're so defensive that it is very difficult to find opportunities to score. And in some cases, you might look like you have an opportunity, but then, as we just saw for a moment there, the sap that is next to the orb happens to be the one that can't pick up the orb, and so opportunity squandered. Good luck to us all, viewers included indeed. The Titan that shall not be named maybe played a bit of a role in this one, as some noob tries to inch closer into scoring range. Anor still has one of her saps in Howler form, which could be preferable offensively. Defensively, it can't do anything because it does not have an aura. But it is faster, which is a luxury that players using exclusively saps perhaps don't often have. Some noob playing it patiently here, controlling the orb and controlling a little bit more of the arena here. Name of the game is oftentimes setting up one of those saplings close enough to be in throwing range, as the saps do have the largest base throwing range in the game. So it might be hard to make it all the way in, but if you can get close enough to launch a throw, as we nearly saw some noob do there, that is probably the key way to score. There you see, Cursed Talismans complicate matters. One exile cannot cast, one exile cannot pick up the orb, and one exile, as we've already seen, will have a 50-50 chance of either turning into an infinite stamina version of themselves or come back as one of those howlers. Now it's a Nor, pushing more aggressively on the attack. Not as good control of the board here, though, the arena, as she only has one sapling in this area, and now just a sap with a shrinking aura. So just harder to sustain that pressure when you don't have the extra saplings to back you up. As your opponent gets rid of your one sap, and then suddenly you've lost all the auras that you had in that area. Whereas if you can do what some noob has started to do here, and put many of those saplings and saps close to your opponent's Pyre, then that is much easier to sustain. Because if one sap goes down, you can still keep some people there and keep on the pressure, although Nor now launching a counterattack. And it may not be the speediest of counterattacks in the world, but because your opponent is composed of, well, entirely saps on their team, they can't exactly recover very quickly. And this is why these matches can take a long time, because we have yet to see our first score here. And we have the 100 starting Pyre life apiece, but remember, each player with all saps could have a lot of rekindling. 150 is the maximum. I don't think we saw players go all the way in on maximum rekindling, as that does mean that they can't do quite as many things with explosive saplings and what have you. I think we've seen both players take. If that's any comfort. Well, you see, we haven't had any scores yet, and we have second life bars that theoretically could be even larger than the first life bars. Which is why the number to beat here, if we are trying to set a record, is about 47 minutes. The original longest rite, obviously the first rite ever played is the longest rite ever, but the original very long rite was actually the rite that started the first Civil War. Was very similar to this, and we have our first score. It's Nor with a 23 damage thrown. Of course, any score is significant here. It is definitely going to be a war of attrition, as in the grand scheme of things, there's still a very long way to go, but that is the first blood. As I was saying, this very arena, with what was actually a double sap and then imp with the cursed talisman that prevented them from picking up the orb, that was the team composition on both sides that led to our first Civil War. Speedy Volfred, which was Volfred with Tailwind Crest, not Nutrition Stick. Oftentimes, people forget that. This was before the days in which Nutrition Stick was popular. Perhaps even before it had that nickname. So it was Speedy Volfred with Tailwind Crest versus Quarterback Manly, not with the quick throwing Star Splinter, but actually with the throwing range talisman, also a common misconception. That was the origin of the original Civil War, which then we, of course, held, and, well, Speedy Volfred ran away with it. But much has changed since then. We now have, this time, triple saps, not just double sap with an imp that can't pick up the orb. So it is not exactly the same thing. That was also the original one at the Nesta Trieste, as we are here. Although I believe the current, or that longest rite has since been overcome on, I believe, a couple of occasions. The most recent, and therefore now the longest rite, as we get a throw here, and it does land for 16 damage, and Nor continuing to whittle away at some noob's Pyre. I believe the longest rites currently may be held by Failer and Lag Machine on the boat. That either is the most recent one or that is currently the second place. Don't remember if that one has been overtaken. Oh, hold on. Somebody's disconnected. Stop the timer. Stop the timer. We need to get them back in. This doesn't count. This doesn't count. Hold on. Let's get an ore back. We can't count this part. This is different. All right, Nora, let me know when you're back and I can give you guys a countdown. Looks like we have you back. Ready to go? Just a sec. Okay, no worries. Seems fine? Okay, great. So I'll give you guys a countdown. I'll go 3, 2, 1, go. And then on go, we'll hit resume. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, get that timer back up and running. Huge lag spike there. Okay, hopefully it's better now. Again, a territory war here. Players trying to fight over control of the arena. Some noob has locked down the middle. Or keeps on finding that sap that can't pick up the orb. So if an orb can find a way past that middle part, might be able to claim the area near some noob's pyre, although now some noob applying some serious pressure, but not of a sustained variety. Some noob instead having set up a lot of saplings around the pyre. Defensively, that is. Here is the Howler. Perhaps some noob will look to attack with that. It is faster, but it cannot sprint, it cannot jump, so in some ways, if there is, for example, an aura that is just on top of the pyre, there's really no way for that Howler to make it through. But an aura somehow avoided banishment there, and perhaps she will try to attack with that Howler. Usually what you tend to see is when you happen to have that Cursed Talisman give you the Howler, you just want to get that thing banished as quickly as possible and have it transform back into its usual form. And that is eventually what happens to an ore here. This time, Anor sees... Is it Volfred with that talisman? I think it is. He comes back in his non-Howler form. Anor trying to set up those saplings closer to some noob's pyre. Inching closer. Try to get, ideally, that throwing outpost somewhere close enough to safely throw the orb, as the saps do have that long throwing range. Not to say they can't plunge, but of course, harder to plunge when you need to find a way directly past all those auras. Whereas, if you do manage to get a throw off, you might be able to avoid having to get past some of them. Now, from some ranges, sap throws are unblockable. That may not be the case here. And Anor testing the limits of that sap throws that might not have even had enough range to make it into the pyre, even if it went unintercepted. But Anor just trying to find a place where she can get close enough to safely throw the orb from within sap throwing range. And there it is. 21 damage. It seems like more often than not, Anor has been taking that northern route. That's where she's had the most success in the past. She's back on the orb here. But looking to set up those saplings before she looks to make an attack. However, some noob disrupting things and suddenly has the orb next to Anor's pyre. Goes for 13 on the throne. You had to wonder there, perhaps some noob with no saps nearby might have been able to go for the full 25. That was some noob's first score, but as we have seen, scoring is not easy to come by. So you have to take advantage of those opportunities when they do arise, and getting half the damage that you might have otherwise been able to get, that might be the kind of shortcoming that could come back to bite some noob here. Or perhaps maybe it's just the start of more throws soon to come. And it'll be water under the bridge. But we shall see. Some noob making attacks here. Dangerously close, but not close enough. And we're debating whether to make that move with the Howler, though. Do you try it, or do you just get the Howler banished? And Or decides better to just get rid of it and hopefully get a normal sap back in its place. And one of the saps that she has, of course, is one of the ones that cannot pick up the orb, which is further limiting her options here as some noob tries to lay siege on Anor's Pyre. Can Anor escape the growing wall of saplings? Well, that's a dangerously placed one right there. Pinning Anor in. Does she have a way through, or will she get stuck here? Trying to make a move. Loses one sap. But banishes one of some noob saps in return and has the orb. They trade saps. Here's full threat. Of course, you can't place a sapling directly on top of one of your opponent's exiles, which is one of the reasons why it is not the easiest thing to get an optimally placed sapling. You can get somewhat close, but not directly on top of an opponent. And so this sapling here is around where Nor and some noob will want to try to create those saplings in the future. It's close enough that it's within throwing range and does give a little bit of a safe zone from which to throw it. And Nor actually throwing outside the bounds of that sapling there, but had enough time to do so. And it was the full 25. So that actually drops some noob down to 15, which means a full damage throw or plunge would be enough to at least confirm how much rekindling some noob has. Some noob still with a ways to go before we see the same on Anor's side of things. Nor gets rid of the Howler. Now trying to get away from her Pyre and closer to some noob's Pyre. Well shielded from Anor. As some noob is wary of having a sap that close to the Pyre, but Anor has continued to fend off attempts to banish Palmas here. And the sapling placement is a good one. That might be close enough that Anor could throw it from there. Actually steps outside the bounds of the sapling, and that was enough to allow some noob to get the banishment. Might not have needed to have done that. Might have still had enough range to remain within the safety of that sapling and launch the throw from there. What's up, loading personality? Thanks for stopping by. We are in the middle of what could be the longest rite ever, with some multiplayer Pyre action here with all saps. Stalemate, as some noob has significantly locked down that northern pathway, trapping Anor and separating some of her saps, although Anor now realizes, hey, well, I mean, if I do manage to get this orb, why don't I just set up right on top of some noob's Pyre? And then I have a quick score. But it is some noob who currently has control over the orb. Not directly, but within the bounds of the territory some noob controls. So it's just a matter of who commits to something first. Who tries to make a big move here, or trying to squeeze in a sapling there, perhaps to disrupt this wall of pink from all those chastity saplings. Ooh, some noob pressing a little bit forward here. Testing the waters. How far can they go now? Some noob is perhaps just barely outside of throwing range here. So that is maybe the biggest thing some noob is looking for here, is if a sapling can be moved slightly closer to Anor's Pyre, maybe then it would be possible to get a throw off here, although it is close. Tries it, but it's intercepted, and orb inadvertently bounces back out right next to some noob, so can try again if that is of interest, but I think we have confirmed now that it is technically within range, yes. but not in unblockable range, and therefore Nor can just intercept these throws.
Quite an exchange.
Some noob, trying to explode some saplings, but look at this. Gives a brief moment in which Nor can press forward a bit here and prevent some noob from controlling that corner as much as was previously the case. That was the issue, was Nor was unable to get through, and Nor had built a wall on the other side as well, so nobody could advance any further. Now the stalemate has been broken, and it's Nor in control here. And a Nor with a sapling very close to some noob's Pyre. It is dangerous. I believe that sap that is closest to the Pyre cannot throw, though. Everyone vanished on some noob's side. Numbing Gust triggers, which means Nor was unable to blink or throw during that period of time. That Numbing Gust is actually on the other side of the tree from Rekindling, which means I think we've now perhaps seen both players have it, which means we will not have the maximum Rekindling. In fact, may not be anywhere near the maximum Rekindling for either player. Maximum is, of course, 150. But perhaps we'll be looking at something more along the lines of 70 or so. Maybe one sap that has the maximum Rekindling, and two saps with just 10 apiece for a total of 70. Now, some noob trying to control the northern route, and Nor looking to go the southern route here. But Nor currently in control of the orb. And within throwing range here, that may be unblockable. Well, there's no one there to intercept it, and there is the Rekindling. It is 100. So that's full Rekindling from two saps, and no Rekindling from the third. We have now seen some noob's second life bar. Same cannot be said for Nor. Nor is still on her initial life bar, so although it might appear at first glance some noob is in the lead, that is not the case. Nor trying to set up another dangerous sapling here to give her a safe spot from which to throw the orb, and this could be it. Is this the opportunity? Some noob does have a sap there, but is this unblockable from this range? It is. Nor still makes it through. It's 25 damage there, dropping some noob to 75, and that means 3 full damage scores is what it would take Nor. And for some noob, it would take 4 full damage scores just to eliminate Nor's starting life bar. That doesn't even begin to address her second life bar once the Rekindling kicks in. 18 minutes in, we saw the first initial life bar go down. As a bit of a time check for us. I suppose, makes sense. It's about a halfway mark, potentially. Suppose we're a little quicker than halfway to what would be the world record for the longest rite. There's a lot of Pyre left to be played here. Ooh, Nor can't pick up the orb with that sap. That means opportunity for some noob here. Gets a throw off. Oh, but it's just short. Not quite enough time to get the right range on it before that sap got banished. As we have said, the opportunities to score in this matchup, they are rare. You need to take them when you get them, and you need to get the most value you can out of them. Nor has control of the orb here. Some noob has set up a bit of a wall, though the southern route, as we are seeing right here, there is still enough room for Nor to carve a way through. And that she does. Is that sapling within throwing range? It's close. Numbing Gust triggers as everyone is down on some noob side briefly, although that second sapling Nor just placed, that one is definitely close enough, although down it goes. Nor can't throw yet. Oh, and there goes that sapling. So Nor perhaps needs to reassess here. What for a moment there, looked like a promising opportunity has since dwindled. And she'll now need to rebuild, or perhaps time for some noob here to make a move. Ooh, some noob moving in aggressively here. Look at this sap that could have been directly on top of the Pyre if some noob chose to go that route. Of course, didn't have the orb. Look at this. There's a line of saplings guiding the way for Anor to some noob's Pyre, giving her safe passage unless some noob removes some of them. And at least one has been destroyed, and it was, I believe, the most important one, as it was the one closest to some noob's Pyre, which means Anor now no longer has a safe place from which she would be within throwing range to try to get a score in. Anor trying to cause some trouble with the Howler, or maybe just get it banished, although could have done that earlier if she would have liked. Nor trying to set up an aggressive sapling here, and does. It is close enough from which to throw the orb, but it looks like that orb is in an area that is overlapping between a blue and a pink aura, so I don't think anyone could take it right now. A lot of overlapping auras there, but eventually some noob ends up with it. Charges up the throw, but not enough time to get the range on it. Still pushing aggressively here, though. But Anor has recovered it. Both players rushing to set up those saplings. Ooh, and that was an aggressive move there from some noob. Very close to Anor's Pyre, but not quite enough time to make it in, and on that occasion, might have been looking to go for the plunge rather than a throw. Orb is free, right in front of Anor's Pyre. Does go for the plunge, so there's 25. No prayer beads on any of the saps, of course, as they all have exclusively cursed talismans, which means some noob is now without Volfred for this round. And that does significantly limit at least the number of saplings that some noob can create. So I suppose it depends which of the saps that was. Which talisman did Volfred have? It was not the Black Heart talisman, which I suppose means that he must have been the one that was not able to create a sapling anyway, so I suppose that means, I believe some noob can still create 2 saplings here, if I'm not mistaken.
United in banishment.
But down go all the saplings. There's also going to be more times in which all the saplings, or all the saps, are banished on some noob's side. Oh, and Anor trying to walk this one in, perhaps. No, goes for the throw from point blank, but doesn't have enough time for it. Some noob. Oh, Anor has a Howler there, but remember, the Howlers don't have an aura, so it doesn't matter if Anor keeps that Howler there. It cannot banish any of some noob's exiles. And that sap cannot pick up the orb. So Anor moving in with the Howler, and might have actually had an opportunity there with it. In fact, no one to stop this Howler right now. May not be able to jump, but there was a path Anor could have taken, just didn't quite have enough time, as she would have had to have gone all the way around to the other side of the Pyre. Oh, but look at this. Nowhere for the Howler to go anymore. Unless Anor takes the big loop all the way around. Down goes everyone but mainly for Anor. Here he is, but he can't pick up the orb. So Anor, purely defensive right now, until she gets the other saps back. Trying to set up that aggressive sapling close enough that she can throw the orb into the opposing Pyre from inside that sapling. Don't quite think that is close enough. Although, might have been a brief opportunity there for Nor to make a sapling that was closer still. Now there's no opposing saps. Nor can't throw until that Numbing Gust expires, though. Or Blink, for that matter. Orb remains unclaimed. Now Nor nabs it. Nor looking to go the other route now, where there is less resistance. Then again, hard to shift your pathway quickly enough with those saps to take advantage of those openings, as in the time it takes you to go from one route to the other, your opponents will probably be able to adjust as well. Then again, they're also slow saps, but here is a Howler for Nor. Now, is there enough space, enough of an opening for her with it, perhaps? Just one sap back to stop it. She can outspeed the sap, but she can't jump, and she can't throw, and she can't sprint. And so if some noob just positions the sap directly on top of the Pyre, as is currently the case, there's nothing Nor can do offensively with that Howler to threaten. So that throw could have done just that, but not enough time to finish it. That is some noob who got the banishment on a Nor. Just on the edge of that sapling. Manly can't pick up the orb. But he can slowly move it by bouncing it closer to Nor's Pyre. Nor with Palmas. Nor just trying to get out from right next to her Pyre. Somewhat surprising the extent to which some noob, at least for a minute there, was able to pin Nor in there despite only having 2 saps to Nor's 3. Now Nor trying to open up a counter, and there looks like there could be an angle here. But as now all saps are gone, Nor cannot throw, and those saplings are blocking, or, well, unless Nor goes the plunging route. And now it's Nor who is down 1 sap for this round. It means that Nor now needs 2 full damage scores to finish the match, whereas some noob needs 3 to trigger Nor's rekindling, but even then, she still has that second life bar. Some noob. Switches to the southern route. Or not. 2-pronged attack. Oh, nearly. But not quite enough time to get the throw off there. Nor. Can't pick up the orb with one of those saps, of course, which means if she is going to try to launch this attack when she's down 1 sap, there's only one that can do that. And it is Palmas. Here he goes, though. Starts charging up the throw, but no time for that. Both players with their saps that cannot pick up the orb in the middle here. Nor just trying to get in that sap that can actually pick it up now, so that she can start advancing. Though unsuccessful. Nor locks down the orb, though, with a well-placed sapling. And with the way the auras are set right now, someone needs to get banished. Otherwise, no one will be able to pick up that orb, as it is in an area that is overlapping between a blue and a pink aura. Both players trying to perhaps use some exploding saplings to mix things up a bit. Stalemate. As players inch closer, and eventually the banishments happen, and Anor is defenseless here. The Numbing Gust, of course, active, slowing down some noob. Here comes Anor. Continuing to try to go the southern route here, there is a fair bit of sapling setup that some noob has in place to slow her down, though. Definitely outside of throwing range from here. And no room to blink in beyond that wall of auras. Unless she tries to brute force her way through here, perhaps. Or just carve out enough space to place a slightly more advanced sapling. But can't sustain it. Now some noob moving in. Has the numbers advantage, remember, and nearly went straight in there. But lost 2 saps in quick succession. Some noob goes for the plunge. Once again, might have had time for the throw. Went for the full 25 damage. So hard to snuff at that. But it does now mean that some noob is back in this position where with just 2 saps, it is considerably harder to both defend and score. So you have to ask yourself, what was the preferable course of action there? Was it to take the full damage and make this next round very difficult? Or settle for a little less, but at least still be at full strength for the next round? And look at this. Wall of blue saps next to some noob's Pyre. And although Anor cannot throw with Numbing Gust active right now, she can safely walk up to this sapling and this orb and walk that one in for 25. Now it's Anor who's down 1 sap. But at this point, Anor just needs 1 full damage score, and that would do the trick. Anor needs to wait for the other sap to return before she can actually pick up that orb. Of course, that is the other challenge that comes from being down 1 sap, is because one can't pick up the orb. You are very limited in how you can move with the orb. Here comes Anor nonetheless. Can't even hold the orb long enough to pass it to the teammate who can. Anor does have a sapling that is in a decent position here, but can she get back to it? Nearly, but not quite. Notably there, Anor could have opted to set up an offensive sapling placement, but chose not to, instead prioritized getting a defensive sapling placed. Meanwhile, some noob is trying to cover all sides by having a sapling wherever Anor might think about trying to advance. So not a lot of choices for Anor here, that means. And now it's some noob closing in. Past one defender. Oh, and was looking for a quick throw, but not enough time to get it off. Full Fred. From one blue sapling to the other. Don't think he has that kind of range, though. Some noob trying to set up even more saplings to wall an Ori in here. We've seen this before in this exact corner. Location of what was perhaps our longest stalemate. Still a little bit of room to work with here, though. They are not completely locked just yet, as Nor was still able to get the orb back. And now looking to shift sides. But in doing so, may have just gotten pinned closer into her Pyre. No saps at the moment. Once they return, immediately tries to set up a defensive wall once again. But some noob keeping the pressure on here. Trying to get more of those saps right next to Nora's Pyre. And banishes one of them, but now needs to wait for the orb to return. And in the meantime, one of Nora's saps respawns. It is the one that cannot pick up the orb, though. So Nora's still unable to get it out from next to her Pyre. Now with a Howler, has some speed, but no blink ability. And might find herself trapped in this corner here. Trying to find a way past this one sap. Got out from one corner. Still not a lot of room to maneuver, though, and down goes that Howler. Which in the grand scheme of things might be beneficial for Nor. So she can get a normal sap back in its place. Here it is. Some noob. Banished here. And we're trying to set up that sapling from which to throw the orb, but I still don't think that one is quite close enough. So we'd need to find a way to inch ever closer to some noob's Pyre, which of course some noob is not about to let a Nor do. Hence all the pink saplings right next to a Nor's sapling. So Nor perhaps looking to shift sides, but then some noob says, alright, fine, I'll set up on that side instead. Opening, perhaps, oh, look at this, a Nor. Moving in aggressively, but trades a sap for a sap, and the one that she has left, oh, that one can pick up the orb, for what it's worth. And now some noob speeding off with a Howler. But a Nor does get Manly back in time to pose some resistance for this Howler. It has now been banished. And Nor does get a sapling that might be close enough to throw the orb from there and get it in. Thinking about it, but now can't throw because Numbing Gust is active here. And down goes that sap and that sapling. Of course, remember, Nor just needs one more full damage throw, and that would be all she needs to finish the job here. So perhaps she's playing it patiently. Knows she can be picky. Just looking for that one big opportunity. And perhaps with enough waiting, eventually such a chance will arise. Just need to be ready to pounce on that opportunity once it does come up. Right now, in the meantime, some noob has started to set up the siege around Nora's Pyre once again. And everyone banished on Nora's side, but the orb lies safely within the bounds of one of her saplings. Not so this time, though. But a Nor quick to defend that orb. And move into an attacking position here, actually. Not for long. Though the sapling does still stand. Anor shifting sides. Oh, and this could be the moment Anor was waiting for. Just needs a plunge and that would do the trick. And there it is.
It's such a well-conducted victory it was.
GG.
Thus end this night's proceedings.
41 minutes and 50 seconds. Near the record, but not quite. A true test of endurance. Stamina as one of, not quite the longest, but one of the longest rites we've ever seen. Probably up there at around... On controller no less, mind you. For players that would normally be playing on mouse keyboard, both players using controller. Dread design may have been more thematically fitting, perhaps. Perhaps. So yeah, what, number one longest ride is about 47 minutes, then I think we have another one after that that's about 44, I want to say. Number 3 might be 42. Then I think once we get around there, that's typically where we tend to see those triple sap rights fall. So I'm not sure exactly what number this one ends up at, but it's probably in around that 4-ish range. 4th longest ride ever. But Anor swapping out. That was, of course, quite the match there. Draining, you can only imagine, after 40 minutes straight. Over 40 minutes straight of playing there. But well done. Oh, that was some noob. Anor can stick around. Okay, no worries. No worries. Well, tell you what. I think that we may be looking at... Melon can hop in if there's still time. I think we might be looking at approaching time for our liberation right here. Is that one right was, well, of course, long enough that it took up a lot of time. So why don't we get Wamelon in against Anor, or if there's someone else who also wants to jump in, we can swap them in for Anor as well. And maybe we'll do a right or two before we go into liberation right protocols. Something like that. Something like that. How does that sound? Do we have anyone else who would like to jump in here in addition to Wamelon? Let me send you the invites while we are at it. Baylor will hop in. Okay, great. Let's see. Let me also tell TariqBot that that'll be enough. TariqBot was rocking for 40 minutes straight. Thank you, TariqBot. Let's see. So, nice. Okay, so we'll get Wamelon. Let me see. Baylor, have you shown up yet? You are not currently appearing on Steam, which I know means I'm going to tab out. Fether is going to say he would like to view the broadcast. Let's set up Wamelon in the meantime. Let's see. Well, then again, I suppose. Wamelon, remind me, do you go mouse keyboard or do you go controller? I don't remember. We may or may not be able to confirm right off the bat who's player 1 and who's player 2. In which case I can start typing in all of your stuffs. There's Failer. Invite sent to you as well. Keyboard? Okay, great. So in that case, let's see. We'll reset ourselves here. Go back to our defaults. Let's also turn back on in-game music in just a second here. Let's do that too. Barring any other TariqBot requests. Will the Scribes, okay. I don't know, after that previous one, I'm not sure Will the Scribes is really what I'm feeling right now. But okay, let's see. So, We will have, if we do this, this should be Wamelon, and this should be Thaler. So let me set you two up here. Certain ceremony. Oh man, I mean that's probably pretty fair. That's not also just totally not how you spell your name. There we go. That's more like it. And then over here we have Thaler. Okay. Great. And Wamelon, remind me which team you would like to be. Thaler, I assume you're looking at Fate. Yeah, and we can fix up the controls. Why don't we do that as well? Let me make sure that you have controls from remote play, because at the moment you do not. There we go. Dissidence for you? Okay. Switch that over as soon as you check over these controls, see if these look right. That good? Okay. Awesome. Let me set you up on Dissidence here by taking away Chastity. Giving you Dissidence. Doing it here as well, and then some of that. Okay. Should be all set now. So we have a song request. Is there anything else we'd like for this one? This will, of course, be the first Rite of the match, Rite of the Night, for both Thaler and for Wamelon. I'm thinking we're probably going to be going pretty soon into the Liberation Rite after this, so just a heads up. We'll have maybe 1 or 2 warm-up rites, and then it is just about the time. As I said, I think, especially after that previous rite, they were playing for 40 minutes straight. I was talking for 40 minutes straight, and I still have a bit of a sore throat, so I can't go much longer. So for that reason, probably looking at just 1 or 2 more rites before the Liberation Rite. Do we have a player for everyone but Beyonders and True Nightwings? We have a ton of people who have Beyond. Both of those teams, I think, as their secondary teams. Yeah. We've seen some Beyonders as of late. I can't remember if it is specifically because for whatever reason, yeah, if it was actually their preferred team or was just so happened that they matched up against someone that required that they go with their secondary team. And this is coming from the team that once upon a time was the most popular team for people to play. Mind you, Beyonders. Wisty did. Okay. Yeah. Even more recently, though, I feel like we've seen... Maybe it was just always backups. We've definitely seen some Beyonders in the not-so-distant past. But alas, right now we have Dissidence versus Fate for Wamelon and Thaler, and all we have request-wise appears to be a song. So why don't we get this started?
The dissidents shall now face the fate. Welcome. Who shall conduct the rites?
So nothing affecting your team composition here. You're welcome to take whatever you'd like. So Wamelon starts with a quick throwing stowaway. And Thaler goes for a quick throwing ninja Almer. So similar for both players there. Then Wormelon goes Headwind in the second spot. It depends a little bit how I'm holding up. It may very well end up being that. It may very well end up being that. And that is a super speedy Pamitha right there for Wormelon in the last spot. The last one for Phaler is a Web Lanthorn Raji. So here we go, our first showdown between Wormelon and Phaler of the Night. Saw both players leading things off with some aggressive Savage plays, and it is Phaler getting us started with 2 throws. Now from Almer, one of which slightly less than the maximum at 19 there. Almer back at it, but his throw is off target this time, and he gets banished. So here's Wormelon with his stowaway. Ooh, big power cast from Headwind there, getting rid of the entirety of Phaler's team, although Gilman has returned, and his throw is wide, but he's still in it here. Has it back. This time goes for the plunge, and Seize Chance was active after having recently banished someone. That means 25 rather than the usual 15 damage. And somehow, Almer very quickly sneaks in a 20 damage throw there as well. Almer hops over the defenders and jumps in for a 20 damage winning plunge. GG. Foxy and Daryl, now that's a name I have not seen for a while. How are you? Hello, everybody. How are you doing? We're doing some multiplayer Pyre. What were you up to?
Until the next rite.
What were you up to? How have you been? Good to see ya. Doing all right. Good to see you again. We're doing some multiplayer Pyre, taking requests from chat. We are near the end of the stream here. I think we have one more rite in us before we do our final liberation rite. So this will be our penultimate rite here. You are indeed facing the scribe, the founder of the Rite Club. One and only. There is that aspect to it as well. But if there is anything we'd like to see before the end of the night is through, then let us know. This is your last chance to make it happen. Our penultimate rite, last one in which we'll take requests before our final rite, our liberation rite, in which we'll just have everyone take their preferred setups here. And thank you for the follow as well. I'm going to mispronounce your name, but Angus Vic Girl? Baylor says he's not even good anymore. I don't know about that. He is still the founder. He is still the founder. Vic Girl or Vic, if that's easier. Awesome. All right, well, we have, I think, a couple more rights in us. This will be our penultimate one. And Anders, thanks for the follow as well. Okay, no worries. A lot going on these days. No worries. Hope you're doing all right. All right, Anders. Dread design for this one. All right, we have a song. Good stuff. Anything else, or will that be all? Singing opera, looking for a flat, and looking for jobs. Yeah, that's some pretty big stuff right there. Wow, hope it's going well. That's pretty sweet. All right, well, why don't we get this one started then? Why don't we get this one started? So, of course, Pyre, if you are unfamiliar, is a sports ball game in which players will fight for control over the orb, and when they do control it, if they can either dive into their opposing team's fire or throw the orb into that fire, they will deal damage to it, and if they deplete all of the Pyre life of their opponent, then they will win. So, definitely some similarities to things like basketball, hockey, and what have you. I think are probably the two things that it draws the most similarities to. But no specific request for this one other than the song that we've already locked in, so it is up to you guys to construct your teams as you see fit. So Womelin, setting things up here. What kind of insane basketball have you played with, Fire? Well, don't even get me started. That's just the beginning. Anor is displeased with its nutrition stick on Manly. She says only Volfred is allowed to have that talisman there. While Phaler goes prayer beads on Bertrude, which means if he plunges into the pyre, he can come back in the next round, whereas usually you'd be out for one round after doing that. Nothing against Palmas. It's just that Manly with nutrition stick is frowned upon. I will remind you, technically speaking, the Civil War was a speedy Volfred that had Tailwind Crest, not the nutrition stick. So technically speaking, it is not that blasphemous. But I see what you're getting at, nonetheless. I believe that was a Jody selection from Womelin for a big bad demon. Saw Phaler use armor aggressively last time. Jumping and throwing around. And we did also see Womelin choose to use a Savage as well. Though in that case it was the Stowaway, and it is the Stowaway in this case as well. Rather than Almer. Phaler's final selection here. He'll go for perhaps a Webbed Lanthorn Raji, which means if he banishes one of the opposing exiles, he will bring someone on his team back. So here we go. Our penultimate rite here on the boat. And Phaler getting things started quickly with that big 30 damage slam dunk from his crone. Although we did see Womelin load up on some starting Pyre life here. So Phaler with another quick score here. This time 20 damage from a throw. But Womelin still above 100 Pyre life because of all the additional starting Pyre life that we saw. Down goes Jody. Phaler now on the counterattack, but he's stopped. And still has it here with Bertrude, and she plunges for 30 here. Phaler teleports the orb with Almer and quickly follows up with a throw. That's good for 20. Phaler now with Bertrude. She's banished. Almer's blocked. Banished, and banishes one of the defenders as well. Bertrude against the Stowaway here. Bertrude leaps and makes it in for another 30. That drops Womelin down to 35, which means Phaler may just need 2 scores to get the job done. The throw was short, but he follows it up for a 20 damage dunk here with Almer. It does mean no Almer for this round now, but 1 score is all Phaler needs, except that we saw Womelin take some rekindling there. The second life bar, good for 50. So Womelin holds on, but here comes Phaler once again. Not so fast as Womelin. Phaler. This time, Successful with Bertrand for 30. Drops Wormelon down to 20. This is, of course, the second life bar, which means no more rekindling. Next score, like the All-Failure needs, uses his Crone Salute, turns all of Wormelon's characters into defenseless howlers for an uncontested winning plunge.
Good game.
GG.
Performance, I must say. The rite is done.
GG. Well played. All right, let's head on back.
Till the stars align.
And as I was saying, that previous rite was our penultimate rite, which means there's only one thing left. Our good old-fashioned liberation rite. No request for this one. We'll have both players taking their preferred teams here as we finish things off in style. Fall of Solium, sermon intro on, never to return version aligned with player 2. Are you ready to rock?
Welcome, exiles. You heed the summons to the fall of Solium. You have this opportunity to prove your worth. Let us see which one of you is more deserving. Dissidents, stand prepared. The fate, stand ready. Now we shall get started.
All right, as we were saying, this will be our final rite of the night. No request for this one. Both players taking their preferred team setup. And so for Wormelon, that means a quick throwing stowaway. For Phaler, that means a quick throwing Almer. Wormelon goes Speedy Jody. Phaler opts for a Prayer Beads saluting Pamitha, which means she can switch places with her closest ally. Then Wormelon finishes with a big power casting headwind. Whereas Phaler concludes with an exploding Gilman. And here we go, our final rite of the night, our liberation rite between Wormelon on the left representing the dissidents, and Phaler on the right representing the fate. Best of luck to you both. And there it is. GG.
Their adversaries they defeated utterly. Thus ends the Liberation Rite.
Well played. That was, of course, our Liberation Rite, our final run of the night. So thank you, everybody who participated in the rites today. Thank you, everybody who gave us the requests in chat as well. You know, maybe, you know, the triple saps one was a little out there. But outside of that, all right. I'm gonna hop out of Discord, but let's see. I will also free these two from Steam Remote Play. But, like I said, that was our final run of the night, our Liberation Rite. Thank you, everybody who gave us the requests in chat today. Thank you, everybody who participated in the rites as well. For those of you who are interested in getting more involved in multiplayer Pyre, which we are doing every Rite Night on Sundays, the best way to do so is by joining the Rite Club Discord server, the place for all things multiplayer Pyre, which you can join by clicking on that link right there. My name is Lids. I'm hosting these Rite Nights, which, as I said, we're doing every Sunday. Our streaming schedule nowadays is Fridays is Gwent Rogue Mage, the new Gwent single-player roguelike game. Saturdays is Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. Sundays is Pyre multiplayer. Then on YouTube, Lids Vids there as well, posting the VODs for all those streams, so if you missed anything, you can catch it there as well. Also doing some Gwent multiplayer videos, new events for that coming out every week. Probably some Thronebreaker as well, which is another Gwent single-player game. In that case, rather than a roguelike, it's more of a narrative, borderline visual novel type style. And I think that's about it nowadays. Just still posting the last few of our videos from our Transistor playthrough that we finished a little while ago at this point in time. So that's all the stuff going on YouTube. But if you haven't done so yet already, of course, you can hit the follow button to get a notification for when I'm live. You also follow me on Twitter at LidsVids. I post there when I'm live as well. But actually, the best place to stay up to date on all things Lids is by joining my own Discord server, which you can do by clicking on that link right there. That's going to be it for me for tonight. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I'll catch you next time.